City Matters.
Welcome back here to hmTV. My name is Richard Acritelli, and this is The Fog of War and Humanity. I'm here today with Michael McClure for his second episode, and just finishing up his first episode was on his involvement with the United States Army Special Forces. So, Mike, what experiences could you say early on about the Special Forces and how it might have molded you?
My first experiences with it, of course, was at the course. And that was the amount of different MOSs that were all combined. We're all training together with one goal in mind, is to earn the Green Beret. It's the quality and intelligence of the people that I was operating with and around.
Where was the training being held at?
It was at Fort Bragg.
At Fort Bragg,
Right.
okay. So,
And there's 3 phases to Fort Bragg. The first one is sort of like a ground week of all your basic ranger skills that, I'm not saying comparing it to ranger school in the same way, but the phase is teaching you everything out of the ranger handbook. All the infantry stuff you have to do, all the tactical stuff you have to do. And that's, once that phase is done, you go to your specific MOS training, which mine was 18 Charlie, Special Forces Engineer. Then as you go through that period, I forget the exact dates and how long of each one, it ends up with Robin Sage, which is the guerrilla warfare phase, which is when they take all the different MOS skills together and we conduct a guerrilla warfare exercise called Robin Sage.
That was at
Fort Bragg.
At Bragg itself,
Right.
there? What year was this about?
It was 85, 86,
Okay.
to the best of my knowledge.
And Cold War is still heating up?
Cold War is still going on, correct.
Okay.
The hardest thing I would say is you're going from, I was about 32, 33 at the time, I'm going from an MOS that wasn't that heavy in infantry skills and the ranger schools type skills you have to learn, is adapting yourself to that. I was in good enough shape to do everything, but it's, even without them harassing you, the course alone weeds out the weak.
Yeah.
And
Still very taxing on you.
very taxing. And you have to be in really good shape. You have to keep yourself physically fit or you're not going to make it. And a lot of it is you're doing a lot of walking with a ruck on through the woods, terrain, and all that kind of stuff.
Was there anything that you had done to prepare yourself mentally?
I would just say being squared away personally and having confidence in yourself and being physically fit. And any person with normal skills in anything can get through the course.
Wow.
They'll tell you, all you have to do is have a normal set of abilities, and if you want to get through the course, you can.
What was a way that you kept yourself fit, physically fit?
I used to
Were you running?
Yes, right. Because when you go from the phase 1 to phase 2, which is the MOS specific, you're doing a lot of classroom stuff. Even though you do PT and everything, you got to keep yourself physically fit.
Let me ask you, you were a wrestler in high school.
I only did that a little bit during the winter to keep myself physically fit during the off season.
Did that wrestling mentality help you out a little bit?
No, it was more the running after.
More the running itself?
Just get out there and do it. Put your head down and keep going.
Sure, and you still love running today, right?
Yes.
So,
right. Yeah.
Okay, so now you get done with the course.
Yes.
Was there a graduation?
Right.
And what was that feeling like to graduate?
I was very proud of the fact that I graduated Special Forces. I think, as I recall, my mother did come to the graduation.
Wow.
And she was exceedingly proud of that.
How many people graduated with you?
I can't remember the numbers, but there was a lot of people failed during the course, especially among the older guys. And older guys, you're talking mid-30s, guys that were senior NCOs had dropped out.
So there's a high dropout rate.
Yeah, even among the younger guys. From day one it starts. When they jump you in the pool and you got to pass the swim test, there's some people couldn't pass that.
Wow.
So
now,
and the mental stuff too, because when you got to your second phase, your MOS, there's a lot of written work you have to do, all calculations, no computers. You do it with a pen and paper.
Now, when you graduate, do you remember who spoke to you?
No.
Was it just a colonel from the base?
Yeah,
or?
that is just a block.
Okay. All right. So now, where do you go? Now you're Green Beret, right?
Yes.
Where do you go?
I was sent to Fort Devens, Massachusetts. That was my first duty assignment. And I remember that when I got up there, a number of the guys had just came back from, remember, Benghazi with the bombing of the Marine barracks and all that stuff.
Oh,
some of them guys were on
Beirut,
that up.
Yeah,
Beirut, yes.
Beirut.
Yep.
Okay.
Beirut, Lebanon, right? That's right, not Benghazi.
Now, what was the Devens base in Massachusetts?
What was it like?
Yeah.
We had the old World War II barracks.
Sure.
Where our team
I remember
room,
those. Yeah.
Lived off base with my family. Training, a lot of training, a lot of time on the ground training, a lot of schools. Winter warfare, summer warfare. They would send us to Fort Smith, Arkansas, do the light training out there.
Light infantry.
And, yeah, and the total awakening was I had to learn how to ski with a rucksack. And
did you ever ski before?
I hadn't skied before.
So
I see all these little kids skiing down
no poles,
how everybody,
right?
and I did a lot of face plants with the rucksack.
Yes.
Help me out of the snow.
Skiing isn't easy when you're 31 years old, 32 years
I was
old.
Still, when I retired 10 years later, I was still trying to figure it out.
Did they send you to Drum for the skiing, or?
No.
You did that up in
We
Devens?
did go to Fort Drum to train with 10th Mountain.
Wow.
We had specific classes we were giving them, and we all had different, from patrolling to mountaineering to weapons training.
I remember seeing those guys with the skis on the, on their shoulder, which was always pretty.
And some
neat.
of the training we went to West Point and trained cadets during the summer, and everybody had different areas of expertise that they trained.
How did you like doing that?
It was fun.
Yeah.
You're always with a group of highly motivated people.
And they wanted to be there.
Great group of young people.
Yeah, they wanted to be there.
They wanted to be there. Very bright, very intelligent.
And they took in everything that you had to say.
Yep.
So now, where is Devens located in Massachusetts?
It was outside, I'm trying to, how far out? Maybe 60 miles away from Boston.
Boston there?
West.
Okay, because I used to go up to Falmouth out on Cape Cod with the Air Force out
and
there.
I don't even think it exists no more. I don't know. I don't know what the history of Fort Devens is. I think it got shut down.
Okay. So now you're at Devens. Where do you go after that?
I got reassigned back to Europe. And
were you glad to go back?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, it was nice to go back. They keep moving you. You don't get to stay. I was in, I think 2nd or 3rd Battalion at Fort. There was 2 battalions at Fort Devens, and 1st Battalion was forward deployed in Germany. And they sent us back to, this time, Stuttgart area, not Bad Tölz. Bad Tölz was the garden spot. And we went to an old, it was called Panzer Kaserne. They had just reopened it. And believe it or not, the Desert Fox once was a commander there during World War II.
Believe it, yeah.
But they had just reopened it. It was a shambles from being abandoned for a while.
Did they have anything for Rommel there? Like any memory stuff?
No. Okay. But they said it was part of the history of Panzer Kaserne.
When you were over in Germany, considering where we are at now, at the studios at the Holocaust Museum, did you go to any of the concentration camps there? Did you visit any of them?
Yes. When I was in the 275th Engineer Company, my father came over and visited my family. And together we saw Heidelberg, and he and I took a little drive to the Munich area and visited Dachau.
Huge place, right?
Huge place. Very cleaned up, very somber.
Yeah.
It was a great tour. We stayed in a local hotel in town. And at the same time, what's amazing, there was a beer fest going on.
Wow.
And he and I were the only 2 Americans in there, but he was thoroughly enjoying himself, both of us.
When you went through Dachau, what was one memory that sticks out for you?
As we did the tour, they showed the barracks, but they're not the old ones. They had to be renovated. And when they brought us into where the gas chambers and the furnaces were, they said there were so many people dying, They never had to use the gas chamber at Dachau.
Yeah.
And that was the first one. That was the one that was open.
That was the model camp.
1933.
Yeah.
That's where they learned
It's the same time that FDR gets into office.
their dirty profession.
Yeah.
That's where they, right.
And they trained a lot of their the
Correct.
guards there and
Right.
everything.
That was the first camp. And such a beautiful area and all that hate and all that death.
Amazing, right?
Right. Now, I can't say I felt anything there, but it is a somber reminder of what man's inhumanity and the man can do. As
Sure.
you see the facility and the monuments and everything and walk the grounds.
30 years before you, there was American soldiers there for
Right.
a different reason. They were
Right.
going
One
in
of the
there
things, my father was in the Navy in World War II, and he was probably, at the time Dachau was liberated,
Sure.
on a destroyer in the North Atlantic, probably. Running. He did tell me he did do a convoy run to Murmansk, which was in Russia during World War II.
with all the supply lines going
Right.
up
And
there.
he was probably only 16 or 17 years old at the
young
time,
guy.
maybe 17, because he faked his age like a lot of young men did to get in the service.
Now, did you have a family of veterans that served?
Right. My father served. My uncle Linky served in World War I on a Flush-Decker destroyer. My uncle from my mother's side served in the Marines in World War II. I can't remember if he was on Okinawa or Iwo Jima.
Okay.
Iwo Jima.
Tough places,
Right.
either one, right? So
My new wife, when I remarried in 2001, her father was a World War II veteran.
wow,
My two sons served, one with the 82nd for 4 years, my oldest one, Robert, and then my younger son, Michael, served with the 25th Infantry Division and did a tour over in Afghanistan for a year.
now your son went to 82nd. Where did he train for that?
He was at Fort Benning, and then he stayed totally at Fort Bragg. His
So
career.
you go back to both those places that you were at for a significant amount of time.
Yeah.
What was it like to go back for your son?
They found it as a challenge, and when both of them got out of the service, they both said, "I don't know how you did it for 20 years."
And a little bit later,
I did it for you.
yeah, and a little bit later in life too. right?
Yeah.
Did you like going back? Did you?
When I saw, yeah.
And there was a lot of good memories, I'm
And
sure.
I remember, even though when I was at Fort Hood, I was in an engineer company. I had nothing to do with airborne at that time. There was a time period I had to go to Fort Hood to do a training. I was doing something with a unit in the training sense. And we did a jump out of a Huey helicopter out of one of the little drop zone stairs. As big a base that is, how small the drop zone was.
So
that
now
was a long time ago.
you're at Devens. This isn't any type of order, but these are some of the places you've been. Devens, Belvoir, Leonard Wood, Hood,
Yes,
Bragg,
yes.
Benning, just to name a
Yes.
couple.
Right.
And Dix, right?
Yeah,
those
I
are all
enlisted there.
Those are
Right.
all big places.
Yep.
Was there any one of those places that you really liked?
I would
serving
say
at?
the most significant, and it was during a very busy time during the Cold War, the most fond memory I have is being
Benning?
actually to be Bamberg.
Wow.
I always had an affinity there. I made a lot of German friends off post, a running club, believe it or not.
Wow.
They were very friendly to me. It was a high-speed unit as far as a mech unit is, As my memories there are pretty.
So you like Germany then, huh?
Yeah, I liked Germany during the time. I had spent so much time there that.
You were expected to be squared away in Germany because
Right. We were always training.
of what
Right.
was kind of in front of you when
Right.
you're looking east, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it's one of those things where
Right. We spent
if
a
you were
lot of.
messing around, they probably got rid of you, right?
I always remember when we were mostly in the field training. You were gone 6 to 9 months out of the year, training, deployed, or doing something. Especially in SF. SF was even more so.
Where else did they send you with the special forces? Were you mostly situated in Germany, or did you go other places as
Yes,
well?
we did training in Spain. We did training in Austria. We did deploy for Iraq during operations Provide Comfort. I was stationed at Incirlik Air Force Base for five different
Turkey,
tours
right?
in Turkey because of Operation Provide Comfort 2, which was the SAR mission, Combat Search and Rescue.
What was that, northern and southern?
I
no-fly
forget exactly
zones,
where.
right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, in Incirlik Air Base, we were living in tents, basically, right off the runway.
How did you like Turkey there?
I didn't. I saw a little bit off post, but I would say that the average Turk treated us fine.
Okay.
There was no.
What about Austria? It's beautiful, right?
Beautiful country, beautiful skiing. You know, in the Austrian army, the training was very professional. Spain, the same way. We trained in Spain. I'm trying to remember.
Did you like Spain? It was
it was beautiful. We were
yeah.
with a Spanish mountain company there. Yep.
Some rugged land there, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's where they filmed. I believe
the
they filmed.
Pyrenees and the Alps, and when you're in Austria, how can you know? Yeah, the Rocky Mountains are magnificent, and so are the Adirondacks and the Catskills. But the European mountains, it's a magnificent place to see. People spend thousands of dollars to go there.
Sure.
I got paid to go there.
Yeah. You were in uniform, and
Yep.
and those memories stay with you too.
Of course.
Right. So,
Right.
All right. So now, when do you leave Europe for the last time?
Around 93.
So 93. So you're in.
I'm still in Special Forces. Fort Devens is no longer.
And you're in there for
for
about 18 years at that point in the military.
correct.
Right?
And I was winding down, and they had moved from Fort Devens to Fort Carson, Colorado. So that's where I finished my career at Fort Carson the last 2 years.
What year do you get out?
I got out in October of 95.
95. And were you were done? You were ready to
Right.
go?
My kids were getting ready to graduate high school, the deployments, and being stationed in foreign countries. I thought it would be better.
Yeah.
And then I went to a civilian life. I went into the trucking industry just because it was pretty much guaranteed a job. Everybody's looking for truckers.
Yeah.
I started with driving over the road, which I found wasn't the best thing to do. It wasn't the best pay, a lot of hours. The activity isn't the same.
Sure.
Too much time sitting in a truck. And after I...
You were mentally stimulated in the service in terms of
Right.
the nuclear, the engineering, special
Right.
forces.
Right. And
working with different groups.
The change in my life happened in 2001. I remarried my wife that I'm married with now. We had went to high school together. I moved back to Long Island, and I got a job not on the road trucking, but local trucking companies worked out for me very well. Kept us in our home, kept me busy, and
Were you glad to come back to Long Island?
Yes.
There's no place like Long Island, right?
Yeah, it was a nice change, right? I went from ending one marriage to creating a new marriage and a new life.
Yeah,
here,
sure.
So, and it worked out. I worked for a number of companies. Currently, I work for Sweezy Fuel and Patchogue delivering home heating oil. And it also, because of the lifestyle change, when I got to work for them full-time and got off driving on the road a lot, it let me become a member of our local VFW where you and I met.
Sure.
Which has been a great help to me. And my wife actually helped me. She kind of got me steered over there by being exposed to it and said she influenced me to become a member. And it worked out very well.
Well, it's that sense of camaraderie.
Right.
Right? Like
right. Similar
I didn't do a fraction of what you did, but you had that camaraderie. We started out in the same place, and you kind of look at certain things similar.
I would say the hardest thing for me in changing is military lifestyle to dealing with a civilian lifestyle.
Yeah.
But it helps when you hear other people's experiences, and they convey the good and the bad and stuff. That, hey, I'm not alone in this. I'm not the only guy that had transition problems.
Sure.
Because it happens.
Yeah.
And just so happens I'm with a company right now, very pro-military, very pro-active in helping people, and it's a great place to work. I know I'm putting a plug in for them, but they're a great company to work for.
Yeah, no, that's good. They're a big company, and they hire a lot of veterans too. So.
Yeah, there's a few there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we just had the PTSD run, our 4th annual Joseph Dwyer run. You've run in every one of them. You've been involved in every one of them.
Right.
Do you look forward to doing that run?
Yes. Along with all the Long Island Veteran Run series, they're all for a good cause. And the camaraderie there and how the protests are developed. Some of them are scholarships through a certain veteran, and just trying to make people aware of we're still losing 22 a day.
Now,
I just want to add, and 40 think or try a day. That's the sad thing. And it's still, we can't get away from that number.
now, when you do the PTSD run, do you often think about some of the guys that you served with, or any concerns that you had over the years, or the soldiers today, that sort of thing?
As I go back, I remember the good times I had with certain people.
Sure.
And there's a camaraderie among the 275th Engineer guys because there's no new 12 Echoes. That MOS is gone. And 2 years ago, I was able to go to a reunion, and we keep in touch a little bit through Facebook. They're having another reunion.
Where was the
here.
reunion at?
The one I did was just outside Fort Hood
Okay.
with a number of guys. It was really great seeing them. And, we remember the good things, and you remember the good things about each other. And everybody's gone through a different life
Phase,
cycle
yeah,
afterwards. Some tragic with the loss of loved ones, and some really good careers. It was really good seeing them. And we all got it well, just like the last day we saw each other, we were having as much fun or as good a friend as...
Sure. And the years come right off of you, right?
Yes.
It's,
yeah.
It's like a nice thing. So
Yeah.
now at the VFW at Post 6249, what's your feeling of the guys, being around the guys? Just always a good sense of camaraderie?
Yes. It's great being around the guys and the support. And it's always pleasant talk. It's not like a bunch of drunken, rowdy guys.
Sure.
It's guys more mature.
Yeah.
Guys that the older Vietnam guys I look at them as my big brothers.
Yeah.
Because if I had a big brother, they would be about that age.
Yeah, and you were in that era
Yes.
there as well.
And an amazing thing is Joe, our post commander, when he left Vietnam, he was teaching at Farmingdale. And I was a senior, and I remember coming in and being my teacher as a substitute.
Yeah.
And here, 30-something years later,
You cross
I link
paths?
up to him at the BFW and our post meeting, which I thought was amazing and how small. And there's one other funny thing, is Ray Simcoe.
Sure.
He served on the Princeton when he was in Vietnam. My father was on the USS Princeton, CV-37, during the Korean War.
Wow.
And we trade stories about that. And his brother, he and his dear brother, Tom, who passed away, was the other Green Beret that was part of our
he was Special
Oregon
Forces. And
Right.
It's amazing.
And I dearly miss Tom.
Yeah, those guys are great. Yeah. They're great guys. They care about the community. They care about the nation.
Right.
It's really, it's a military organization, but they do a lot of
I
great
would,
things.
to any veteran, to become a member, if they can, of a VFW or what's the Knights of, not the Knights of
American Legion.
American Legion, because just by being around other people, it's going to help you. It's going to lighten your load a little bit, and you're going to know that you share certain burdens with other people, even though everybody's experiences are different.
But the military community looks at things differently too, right?
Correct.
So
Right.
It's a good thing.
It changes you forever. A kid that gets out of high school, I'm sure to his parents, when he comes out of basic training, whatever basic training is, there's a difference between him or her and their comrades that they graduate with.
Now, before we go, you drive an oil truck. Mm-hmm. You're busy. Is there anything that pops into your head of your own military service? Is there any one reminder that you have?
I would say one of the moments out of my life that I still remember in a positive way was when we were in northern Iraq and we were at the camps. We had about, I believe, 70,000 in our camp. Is the last few nights.
Prisoners of war? Or?
No. We were
people?
the Kurds.
The Kurds?
We were supplying them with food. And we were abandoning that camp they were going home. And all the trucks that were coming up on a daily basis to bring these people to their own homes I went through an area where all the orphans were.
Wow.
We probably had close to 300 orphans there. And I knew that God forgave me for everything I did wrong. And those kids embraced me and saying, I love you.
Sure.
It was amazing. That I probably think is the most important, most the biggest memory I have. And I wish and I hope all them kids are still good today. Because the way things went in Kurdistan and Iraq and the world problems.
Sure.
That's probably and then, just when I do bump into a few, just the pride that you did do something and stand for something. That's all.
Yeah, it was worthwhile.
Yeah.
Right? And it was. Your service transcends over many different decades at the very end of the Cold War.
Yeah.
And, even though you're a half world away in Turkey and northern Iraq, the kids are no different than you would see from
Right. It's still going
here.
on today.
Yeah.
The terror, there's only one person, there's only one person going to change that, and that's God. And
Sure.
What we can as humans, it started with the beginning, and it's gone on ever since.
Sure.
And that's the tragedy of what we do to each other down here.
Yeah.
Along with the good things, there's a lot of good things that people do for each other, and it happens every day in the hospitals and people donating their time.
Sure.
A hand up.
But Michael, thank you
thank
very
you
much
very
for coming down here.
Yep.
Mr. Michael McClure, Army Special Forces, and just one hell of a guy. Thank you for joining us today at Fog of War and Humanity, and we hope to see you soon.